Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and in this edition we'll be looking at Béla Tarr's film Werckmeister Harmonies. This Hungarian director's modus operandi is to make films with long takes and looking at the bleak and desolate representations of reality while incorporating apocalyptic overtones. His greatest work to date is the 7.5-hour opus Santantango from 1994, hailed by many as one of his greatest cinematic achievements. He debuted back in 1979 with the film Family Nest, which began his directorial career with a brief period of what he refers to as social cinema, which is aimed at telling everyday stories about ordinary people, often in the style of cinema verite. Over the next decade, he changed the cinematic style and the thematic elements of his films. Tarr has been interpreted as having a pessimistic view of humanity, and the characters in his works are often cynical, and they have tumultuous relationships with one another in the ways critics have found to be darkly comic. Now, the title Werckmeister Harmonies refers to the 17th century Baroque musical theorist Andreas Werckmeister. Georgi Esther, who's a major character in the film, delivers a monologue asserting that Werckmeister's harmonic principles are responsible for the aesthetic and philosophical problems in all subsequent music, and indeed they should be replaced by a new theory of tuning and harmony. Now, the film is co-directed by Béla Tarr and Ágnes Hranitzky, his wife, and it's based on the 1989 novel The Melancholy of Resistance by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. Shot in black and white and composed of 39 languidly paced shots, the film portrays the life of János and his uncle Georgi during the communist era in Hungary. It also recounts their journey among helpless citizens as a sinister visiting circus casts a shadow over everyone's lives. Now, each shot seems to outstay its welcome on screen. The shots start before action takes place in the film and after it ends, but the camera seems to always stay on the shot, and the viewer has no choice but to stay with it until the cut happens. But after a while you do become accustomed to this, because we are so used to faster cutting in films nowadays that it's something which will certainly test the viewer's resolve somewhat. As a metaphysical horror story, Werckmeister Harmonies deserves to be Tarr's breakthrough into the cult audience, especially since its atmosphere bears some comparison with the early David Lynch films. The hermetic world that Tarr creates here is mysterious, and the film's representation of it is rooted in a scrupulously mundane naturalism. Werckmeister Harmonies is a collaborative film also, the opening titles credited jointly to Tarr, Krasznahorkai and editor Ágnes Hranitzky, and of course she is his long-time collaborator. The strength of their collective vision together is proved by a remarkable unity of tone and look in the film, and despite an extended production period that involved 7 cinematographers being involved, including Rob Tregenza, who's a specialist in slow-take cinema in his own right. Now, throughout, the film maintains its style of camera movement, and it creates a forever shifting space for the viewer, and is closed to the outside world. The small town where the action mostly takes place contains endlessly explorable interiors, such as the cavernous expanses of Esther's house, unfolded indeed by the roaming camera. The haunted bony features of the German actor Lars Rudolph, who plays lead protagonist Waluska, who has in fact, I thought, a strong resemblance to Klaus Kinski. But the tone of the novel is radically stripped down in Tarr's screenplay, and his verbal torrents reduced to a chill autism being closer in fact to Gogol. Since Waluska works as a postman, he meets various people delivering the newspapers, and a working-class woman he meets tells him of coal shortages in the town, people's fear to go out because they could be robbed or indeed attacked, and the disappearance of families and the end of the normal course of things in the everyday lives of citizens. All of this is somehow connected to the arrival of the mysterious prince, along with the circus to the town. Now, strange things are connected with the prince. A tree falls and its roots suddenly start coming out of the ground. The woman asks Waluska, "How are things in the cosmos?" She makes fun of his affiliation to the cosmic order of things, understanding him as a dreamy and slightly retarded individual. However, in his ironic remark, the cosmic nature of things occurring in the film is revealed. While ordinary people live their day-to-day experiences without reflecting on the greater picture, someone like Waluska, although he might be intellectually deficient, struggles to keep things in balance through his acts of imagination, the ritual at the beginning of the film, for instance. Now, we witness things going out of control in everyday life of citizens in the town, and that they cannot escape the great unbalances that exist in the cosmic order. A circus built around a huge stuffed smelly wheel and its star performer, the prince, who is never seen, comes to town in the night. Janos sees them arrive and philosophises about God and the wheel. Georgi's estranged wife Tunda, played by Hanna Schleigula, popular of course for appearing in many Fassbinder films, tries to leverage her political and social status by giving Georgi a list of names to recruit for the Clean Up the Town movement, with the blessing of the police chief, and demands that Georgi becomes the chairman of the movement, or else she will move back in with him that very evening. Now, mostly German actors are used in the film, as opposed to Hungarian performers. The film is dominated by a brooding atmosphere of apocalyptic unrest, although it's implied, indeed, that the cosmic evil that pervades the town is the product of paranoia. Tempting as it may be to relate the story to political changes in Hungary in the last days of communism, Tarr has insisted when he was interviewed that his films contain no such allegory. Yet the narrative is certainly one of anxiety about the breakdown of an old enfeebled order and the explosive release of repressed popular energies. Little in recent cinema is as terrifying as the sequence in which the masses attack a dilapidated hospital. They beat up patients as they go, and the violence in an 8-minute long shot is accentuated by the ghostly peacefulness of the camera's drift along the hospital passageways and round the corners, like a distracted onlooker. At last the hordes stop dead at the sight of a skeletal, naked old man and the decrepit earthly remnant of God himself, perhaps while Tarr holds a close-up of Waluska's stare. Now, the other great enigma in the film is Waluska's role in events themselves. Seemingly an innocent treated with gentle indulgence, he has an implicit megalomania about him, directing a bar of drunks in the opening of the film in a reenactment of cosmic motion. And he plays not only a beer parlour deity, but also a film director figure within the fiction. He's characterised above all as a seer, gazing at the world, whether staring into the inscrutable eye of the wheel or as a mute witness to violence. But his part in the terrible night remains unclear. When he reads a diary account of events, we never quite know whether he's reading a narrative of his own involvement or whether he has authored the events in a more oblique way, whether he has somehow, if only by passive collusion with Tunda, catalysed the apocalypse itself. And at the opening of the film, explaining the cosmos to his drunks, Waluska pleads, "All I ask is that you step with me into the bottomlessness." And that is essentially Tarr's invitation that he gives to the viewer. The enigmatic harmonic preoccupations alluded to in the title of the film suggest that this film is rich in movement, low on dialogue, of course, as the old phrase has it, to the condition of music. But Tarr's true achievement is to attain the condition of silence and the bottomless, awesome, inscrutable nightmare. Now, this film will certainly not reinforce the Pangloss theory in Candide, for instance, but rather leave you with a distinct feeling of hopelessness and the futility of existence itself. And if it does this, then Béla Tarr has rather succeeded in his brief. It's also really good to see Tarr's work coming to the Criterion collection, and this was only previously available as an Artificial Eye DVD release. But they've chosen this slightly more accessible film by Tarr to debut with in the collection as well. And you may well find yourself seeking out his behemoth Santantango to plunge back into his world again, albeit for 7.5 hours, sooner than you realise, as his film certainly will leave you thinking about your place in the universe. And I would say that there is a hope, but it's really buried very way deep down in this film, and you have to mine for it, so to speak. Werckmeister Harmonies was restored in 2022 by the National Film Institute of Hungary, and its restoration that it has in this particular release from Criterion comes across 2 discs, a 4K UHD with the main feature, and of course a director's commentary, and the second disc, which is a Blu-ray with the film and the following special features. We have that film I mentioned earlier, Family Nest, his first feature film, a new interview with Tarr by the film critic Scott Foundas, and there's new English subtitle translation, and an essay by the film programmer and critic Dennis Lim, and cover is by Polly Deadman. In 39 hypnotic long takes engraved in ghostly black and white, author Béla Tarr and co-director-editor Ágnes Hranitzky conjure an apocalyptic vision of dreamlike dread and fathomless beauty. And sadly, he isn't one for doing any great behind-the-scenes recording or indeed interviewing. The film has a running time of 145 minutes. It's totally shot in black and white, and it's a 1:66:1 aspect ratio, and it releases in a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo set on Tuesday the 16th of April with a new spine number of 1215. In the next edition, we examine Soy Cuba, I Am Cuba, the 1964 legendary hymn to revolution from the director Mikhail Kalatozov. So until then, from me, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.